It's 2 p.m. right now, and the storm right now is at its absolute maximum. It's at its peak. We're having hurricane force wind gusts for sure, sustained tropical storm force winds. You can see everything blowing around like crazy. You can see all my plants are getting pushed and shoved around by the wind. It's kind of hard to tell because I'm standing in a sheltered position up against my house so I could actually record this, but the treetops are getting whipped around by hurricane force gusts for sure. It is pretty rough right now. This is probably the worst we're going to see overall. Really intense right now if you're standing out in the open. You definitely want to be under protection when you're filming something like this. Well, here comes the inner bands of the storm, and it is just absolutely hammering out. I got done filming just in time. This is some crazy wind-driven rain. What's going on, gardeners? It's Friday, September 30th, and Hurricane Ian is in the process of making landfall as we speak here nearby the southeast coast of North Carolina where I live. So I wanted to take this opportunity, because there is a light break in the rain bands, to take you on a garden tour of my property during a hurricane landfall and show you basically what you can expect in these types of conditions and how you can try to prepare to mitigate wind and rain damage. Now, I've lived here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina for 5 years, and in that time frame we have had 3 hurricanes and 1 tropical storm. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about living in the coastal Carolinas. We get hammered here. So at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on what it's like living through these conditions and how you can prepare and what to expect. But for now, I want to take you out in this rain break and show you what we're dealing with. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, conditions behind me are pretty rough, so I have to do this one-handed with the camera and stay under cover to protect it. So I'll try to keep it as stable as I can, but I apologize if this is going to be a little bit of a shaky tour. So right here you can see the wind conditions in my yard right now. It's not unbearable, but it is twisting my umbrella upside down. So everything is whipping around. We're a little bit protected back here because I have the house blocking me from my north, and I have the woods that kind of block from the south. So we have some wind protection. It's going to be much worse out in the open. So keep that in mind. This is a sheltered, protected location. So imagine how bad it would be if you were in an open field. We'll start in the corner of the yard by my banana trees, and as you can see, my banana trees have been getting whipped around for a while, and the banana tree leaves are starting to shred. This is not going to harm them in any way, shape, or form. They have actually evolved to tear like that because when they tear, they sort of act like palm fronds where they don't catch the wind. So they actually shred on purpose. They're designed to do that from nature, so the wind doesn't catch them like a sail and then uproot the tree. So by the end of this hurricane event, they are all going to be probably completely shredded. They won't look as nice, but don't you worry, this does not harm them. Then we will move over here to our fig trees. The fig trees are from the Mediterranean, where they don't get hurricanes. They do get the occasional metacane, I know, but they're not subjected to wind like we get here. So they do whip around quite a lot. However, the good news is with the fig trees, they are at this point in the year still pretty springy, and they tend to handle the winds fairly well. So I'm not really all that concerned about the fig trees. I'll just continue to walk. The persimmon really getting beaten up and whipped around pretty good right here. And then this banana tree right here, this is almost completely shredded. It's sort of what we expect during conditions like this. Then here are my fig trees on the side here. They are overall holding up really well, despite how tall and single stemmed some of the ones that died back are. This one obviously took a little bit of wind damage. This has been blown down. I'm going to have to re-secure that. Everything, for the most part, looks okay in the side yard. What's really made me happy is that My cable trellis that I erected earlier in the spring has all the plants tied to this have taken the wind like an absolute champ. It's been pretty incredible. Now you see how they'll blow out like that real quick? They will blow like that, and then as soon as the wind dies back, they will simply spring back into place. So it looks like they're blowing over, but it's not. It's like they bend with the wind frequency. And you can also see how much rain we've gotten so far. So this wheelbarrow right here, this dump cart, is about half full. So it looks like that's about close to maybe about 3 inches of rain, and the storm is just coming on shore now, so we'll probably at least double that. This will be completely full. My bird bath, which was completely empty because we haven't had rain in almost 2 weeks, is now completely full and overflown. So I will take you around the side of this trellis and just show you everything has stood back up on its own. And I'll link to a video above that will show you how to build this trellis. It was really easy, really cheap, and it is very, very strong. Poor Dale is over there in his raincoat trying to go potty. He's trying to figure out what exactly is going on. He hasn't seen wind like this in a while. All of the figs are holding up really well. The nice thing about these black containers is they're really heavy, so it would take some extreme wind to blow them over. These 5-gallon buckets, on the other hand, they blow over very easily. So I'm very happy to say that tied up, I've had pretty much no issues with them all year blowing over. They've done absolutely incredibly. So again, I can't recommend this this trellis more highly. It's done a great job at preventing things from blowing over. Now I will take you into the back property so you can see just how bad Dale and I are blowing around in the wind right now. Now what's nice is my citrus in the back container here, or in the back corner right here, they're pretty protected overall from the wind. So I'm happy to say that they're laden with fruit and pretty heavy right now. So they're doing a really good job at enduring the wind, being back in this sheltered corner underneath these tree canopies. So when you plant citrus, it's a really great idea to plant them underneath a tree canopy, as long as they get full sun from the front, at least 6 hours of sun a day. They're actually an understory tree in their native climate, so planting them underneath oaks or other canopy trees is really a good idea. Here are my pawpaw trees right here. You can see how large they have become. They've grown more this spring than they have in the past 2.5 seasons put together, which is what we expect. The third year is generally when they start putting on vertical growth. We say they sleep the first year, they creep the second year, and they leap the third year, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're leaping. They are about 5 feet tall right now, so they've pretty much tripled in growth this year. Then we have my non-astringent persimmon right here. That is getting whipped around in the breeze. Hopefully that doesn't lose any fruits, because you can see they are starting to become ripe. They're getting that nice yellow-orange color. In about another month, they should be orange, and after our first frost, usually the first or second week in November, they will be ready for harvest. Then we have my Asian pear, my peach, and my 2 apple trees that I am slowly starting to espalier. I haven't showed you a video on this trellis just yet, but I will eventually show you how to espalier these trees. So an update will be coming later this fall or earlier in the winter when it comes time to tie things down and prune. Oh, here comes a big wind gust right here. You can see everything shaking around. But I was able to tie off some of the trees to set their low cordons. So overall, they're looking pretty nice, and hopefully they hold up to this storm no problem, because as you can see, whoa, we are whipping around pretty good right now. It's a little hard to hold on to this camera and an umbrella at the same time, so I'm tripping over things while I walk. My Owari Satsuma right here is tolerating the wind pretty well overall. So is the avocado tree and the Meyer lemon. I recently pruned them, so they've been pruned so small that there isn't all that much foliage to dance around and really catch the wind. So I actually had really good timing on that, and the house does a great job at blocking any wind coming in from the north. So I'm pretty happy about how they're taking the winds overall. And just look at my Meyer lemon tree right here. It is just loaded with fruit. This is going to be a fantastic winter for lemons. I'm going to have more lemons than I know what to do with. All right, I have successfully made it into the garden. First of all, don't worry about the corn. The corn has already been harvested. I just haven't had a chance to pick it up yet. See, my umbrella is being ripped inside out. Very annoying. Every couple of minutes it does this, but I have to keep the camera protected. So don't worry about the corn being blown down. That's done anyway. I'll have a video on that fairly shortly. Much of the garden is not even staked. Like, my peppers aren't even tied up, and they're taking things pretty well overall. Some of them are tied to some rebar posts. You can probably see that in there, but a lot of my peppers, they may get pushed around in these winds a little bit, and I may have to stake them up when this is all said and done. I have been bragging about how good the string trellis method of staking indeterminate tomatoes is for years now, and people, I think, don't believe me when I tell you this is probably the strongest way that you can tie your indeterminate tomatoes, and it's much stronger than staking. You wouldn't think it would be, but it is, because these strings, they dance with the breeze instead of absorbing all of that energy like a staked tomato would. A staked tomato can't move, so when the wind comes in and it blows them, it takes all of the force. I did lose a branch down here, it looks like, but that's because I was away for a week for work and I didn't get a chance to prune them, and that one was not tied up. So the tomato branch that did not have a string clearly snapped, but I still have the strong main branch, so no big deal there. My cherry tomatoes are actually doing pretty well. A little bit of disease, but they're loading up with fruit. Everything has a lot of fruit on them, despite the fact it is still pretty hard to grow here in September due to the heat and humidity. My modular hoop house I took off on purpose because I knew this was going to get blown around. I'll be able to easily assemble that again, so my insect netting clearly blew off. But my retractable hoop house, which is much stronger and sturdier, this one is still holding together just fine, as would be expected. The insect netting is starting to blow off, but again, we'll just be able to clip that back on in about 2 minutes. Most of my determinate tomatoes are holding on. I had to tie them up. They're in pretty bad shape because I planted them when it was still really hot and humid out, but they are holding on and they are making fruits, and hopefully we'll get some kind of harvest off of them. Here again, you'll be able to see just how much rain we got with this plastic container right here. You can see there's probably 3 inches of rain in there. We can expect that to probably double when all things are said and done. Here I have some of my cucumbers. They are tied up using the string trellis method. They're getting pretty beat up, again, in the heat and humidity, and it's also caterpillar season, but they are still putting on fruits. They actually have a bunch of fruits down below, so they're a little bit ragged, but they'll get us through the fall growing season and probably produce the fruits that are up there until frost. So overall, the garden is definitely winding down, but we can expect that at this point in the year. And overall, it was a pretty decent season, so I can't complain. Some of my peppers are starting to blow down, but again, the season's going to be coming to an end in probably about 5 to 6 weeks, so I will string up what I need to when all is said and done. Nothing will get uprooted in these winds, most likely, so again, not a big deal there. And then I have my last couple of cucumbers that are starting to come up that I planted from seed about 2 weeks ago. That's what you can expect after about 2 weeks after you seed your cucumbers. The sweet potatoes are coming along amazingly. We're going to have a great sweet potato harvest this year. And then this is going to be my first bed of my cold crops. This is mostly chard, broccoli, kale, cabbage, and some lettuce is starting to go in the back. I will have more transplants ready to fill out the rest of the bed and to probably start a new bed within the next 2 weeks. And we will hopefully have 2 beds worth of cold crops. And then over here, I have what will be my first seeding of my carrots, my beets, and my radishes. I'm going to sow more probably later this weekend when the bad weather goes away, because I want to have another harvest that's about 2 weeks below after that. You can always get a better idea of what the wind is like and how bad it actually is when you look at the tops of the trees, because they are fully exposed to the wind, whereas we're a lot more protected down by the ground. So right now it looks like we're not really in an actual gust. It's almost impossible to time them on video, but this is more just the sustained winds that we're dealing with. So these are probably sustained winds, if I had to guess, in somewhere around the 30 to 40 mile an hour range, maybe 35 miles per hour, sustained. And then when you get the gusts are probably going to be somewhere around the 50 to 60 mile an hour range. So you can see how everything is dancing around. Overall, we are far enough removed from the center of circulation that the winds here just aren't terrible. I'm sure if you go in between Charleston and Myrtle Beach, where the actual storm is making landfall, the winds are going to be substantially worse than this. So once you get away from that eye wall, the force of these winds, they begin dropping exponentially. So we're very fortunate that we are not taking a direct hit from this. And I'd just like to send out my condolences and my thoughts and prayers to all of you in Florida and in that already went through the direct hit, and for all of you in South Carolina that are going through the hit right now. I hope that you will all stay safe, and I hope you and your families are protected throughout this event, because we've gone through direct hits before. I've gone through 2 direct hits since I've lived here, and I know they are no fun, and I've only been through Category 1 direct hits, so I can't imagine what it's like taking a strong storm. So God bless you all, and may you all be safe throughout this event. Now, like I said, over the 5 years that I've lived here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, I've been through 3 hurricanes and 1 tropical storm. And what I've learned a lot about when it comes to the forecast wind intensity, the overwhelming majority of wind intensity is concentrated in that immediate eye wall just outside of the eye of the hurricane. So the forecast winds, once you start getting about 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles away from that eye wall, the wind speeds begin diminishing dramatically. Now, while a hurricane is making landfall right now, since we're probably about 100 miles or so to the north of where it is actually making landfall, we're only seeing tropical storm conditions right now. So all the winds that you just saw in this video and the winds behind me, these are sustained tropical storm forced winds. So it is possible during those tropical storms that you can get hurricane force gusts, but they are not sustained. Still, if you have anything that is unstaked or untied down, it can get badly damaged and blown away. As you can see, all of my corn was blown down. Thankfully, I already harvested that, and I did have some damage on a part of my tomato that I did not stake. Everything is getting whipped around a lot, so it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to actually cause damage. Now, rainfall, on the other hand, rainfall can be terrible all over the place. I mean, I've gotten about 3 inches of rainfall right now. When this is all done, we'll probably see about half a foot of rain, if I have to guess. And that is us being, 100 miles or so removed from the core of the storm. So it's going to be much more around that core. The biggest threat when it actually comes to Category 1 and Category 2 hurricanes in the outer bands is actually isolated tornado threats. So the whole area is under an isolated tornado threat watch for basically the next 12 hours. Look, you can see how badly everything is whipping around me right now. Those are not sustained winds, those are tropical storm force gusts. So that right there was probably something around a 50 or 60 mile an hour wind gust. So imagine how bad it can be when these winds are sustained in the 80 to 100 mile an hour range, actually in the eye wall of a hurricane. And I've been through that. It is incredible. You can actually see the rain shoot horizontally down like a torrent down the road. It's incredible when you're actually in that eye wall. This house was directly in a Category 1 eye wall back in Hurricane Isaias, which I think was 2020. It was the year before last. And witnessing that, it was pretty crazy. So I can only imagine what these stronger storms are like. Now, that being said, the Carolinas has been a very popular place for people to move to over the past few years. So understand that if you're thinking about moving to the coastal southeast or the southeast in general, these storms are going to be a regular part of your life. So you need to prepare for them. You need to have at least some bottled drinking water on hand. You should have a generator. You should have those little cell phone battery power banks that you can charge your phone a few times on. Those battery bricks are invaluable. Have all that stuff charged and ready to go. Have yourself a flashlight, some batteries, etc., etc., etc. The good thing about where we live in the Carolinas is we don't tend to see the severe high category impact storms, but they do hit here once a generation. We have been recorded to get up to category 4 storms hit actually in the county where I live. So it's totally possible. You always have to be prepared for these types of conditions. So I wanted to take this time and go through my garden during this type of wind and rain event and capture some footage for you all. I know that none of the footage was all that impressive, but remember, this is just a tropical storm. This isn't even a category 1 hurricane, so because we're so far removed from the center of circulation. So you did see some pretty decent gusts in this video and some decent sustained winds, so be aware of what it can actually be like living through a hurricane. So take them seriously and be prepared, especially for the potential of long-term power outages. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful, entertaining, and informative. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products I use in my garden, they're all linked in my Amazon storefront link down in the video description. So expand that video description to find the Amazon storefront link to see everything I use in real life. And while you're there, check out my Spreadshop link for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again in the next video. And again, God bless you all that actually took the full brunt of this storm. We're praying for you all. Well, it's a lot nicer in here in this sunroom than it is outside, isn't it, Dale? It is really starting to blow some serious wind out there. You haven't seen wind like this in quite a while.